When Iranian missiles were seen trailing past in the night sky over the Dome of the Rock in al-Quds on April 14th, many saw a historic scene. Hundreds of Iranian missiles and drones were heading towards the Israeli-occupied territories on that night in a large-scale military operation that had long been promised. It was now coming in response to an Israeli strike that had hit the Iranian consulate in Syria, but it was also meant to retaliate dozens of other Israeli strikes against Iranian advisors in the Arab country that had gone unavenged. In this episode of In a Nutshell, we are taking a look at how that attack, a first of its kind, transpired. Iranian officials had been advising strategic patience for quite some time. Israeli strikes, though unclaimed, had been taking the lives of Iranian advisors who were in Syria on the invitation of the Syrian government since 2011. While the Iranians had warned that those strikes would be avenged, no counterstrikes had come yet. Some already believed the Israelis were growing more brazen each time an attack went unanswered. Then, on April the 1st, another unclaimed Israeli strike hit the Iranian embassy in Syria. The consulate building was razed and 16 people were killed, among them Brigadier General Mohammad Reza Zahedi, a senior commander with the Quds force of the Islamic Revolution Guards Corps. Under the Vienna Convention of 1961, the premises of diplomatic missions shall be inviolable. In the eyes of a watching world, the Israelis had taken one step too far. For the Iranians, a boiling point had been reached. For the Israelis, a moment of truth. Iran's Operation True Promise came quickly. It was the realization of a promised revenge that the Israeli officials and military strategists believed would never come, at least not the way it did. Sirens were sounded over the entire Israeli-occupied territories, south, north, east, and west. Hundreds of ballistic missiles, cruise missiles, and drones laden with explosives were fired toward Israeli-held territories. The targets were two Israeli military sites. The Iranians didn't aim to kill any settlers. No one slept in Israel that night. Years of Israeli aggression had piled up, and the Israelis, in spite of much bombast by their officials, now knew little what fate had in store for them. To put up a defense, Israel's allies, mainly the United States, the United Kingdom, France, and Jordan, had to act. The United States had to coordinate. The scale of the attack overwhelmed them all. At the end of a horrifying night for the militaries of all those countries, several Iranian missiles hit their targets as planned. Iran had intended to show its ability to strike within Israel from thousands of kilometers away and without the use of fighter jets that could fly nearby, a tactic that Israel often used to hit the Iranian advisors in Syria. The conduct of the Iranian strike proved Iran's ability to overwhelm not just the boasted Israeli air defenses. Without all those other militaries taking to the skies or working in overdrive, Israel would have experienced the equivalent of devastating earthquakes. In a military sense, years of what some called a shadow war by Israel on Iran had been appended. If the Israelis in the shadows carried out a strike, they would be hit inside Israel. Iranian officials said just that after the Iranian operation. The hit-and-run strikes on Iranian interests in Syria, Iraq, and elsewhere would now be responded to directly inside of Israel. Israel did attempt a retaliatory strike of its own on April 19th, but they were so minimal and ineffective that they prompted Merriam-Webster Dictionary to pick "to underwhelm" as its word of the day. Already, tectonic plates had been moved not just for Israel, but for the entire world.